Hey, creative souls, writers, word witches, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it so much. In this video, I will be talking about the writing practice of Pulitzer Prize winner Barbara Kingsolver. And she is someone we can listen to because not only has she written over a dozen novels, 9 of them have been on the New York Times bestseller list. This one is, of course, for everyone listening, but especially for those who either believe they have to plan out their entire novel before they can start writing it, or closely related to that, believe they are wasting time by writing pages they don't need, and they believe they can crack some sort of code and discern in their own mind which pages are the ones that need to be written now so that they don't waste time. Meanwhile, they're wasting all kinds of time. If you're new here, my name is Johnny. I'm a retired adjunct writing professor, and I currently teach fiction writing and screenwriting to adults in custody. I call myself a word witch, and I believe I'm on this earth to heal the world through stories, whether it's the ones that I write and tell or the ones that I help you write and tell. Thank you so much for your likes, shares, and subscribes. Every one of you is instrumental in helping me on my quest to grow a community of like-minded creatives who embrace the power of story to heal. My channel is slowly growing, and so here is my shameless plug to ask you for your help to get me to 200 subscribers by the end of this year. So if you know of anyone who wants to write, who is a writer, and you think would benefit from what I'm offering, please let them know. I appreciate it so much. Okay, so let's get to Barbara Kingsolver. If you have not read her, I highly recommend it. She's a phenomenal writer and storyteller. In an interview with the New York Times, and I'll put a link in the description so that you can check it out, she said this: "I have to write hundreds of pages before I get to page 1. This is sage wisdom. I always tell my students and clients there is no such thing as wasted time writing. There's no such thing as wasted words. And hear me when I say this. As long as you're holding on to this belief that it's possible to waste time writing, even in an exploratory kind of way, when you write to discover what you need to know, you are throwing that obstacle down for yourself. That is a self-imposed obstacle, and it is not true." At the time of the interview, Kingsolver said that she woke up very early. And by very early, I mean like 4 a.m. She said she woke up with her head full of words, and I'm sure you can relate to that. She said she would go to her desk and just start dumping them into a file. She didn't waste time trying to sort out how to put them together in the right way, trying to figure out what they all mean. She just dumped them into a file, and I love her for this. I'm a big fan of brain dumping. It's the way that I write, and I think it's why I don't get writer's block. We must get what's knocking around inside our brain outside of us. Otherwise, it's like that bees in the jar metaphor that I've talked about. And we have to let it come out in whatever form it takes. We are not in control at that point. We are just a conduit for whatever has dropped in overnight while we've been sleeping, and what is in there buzzing around, we have to just get it out. Then we can shape it like clay on a wheel, another metaphor that I use a lot. She says that she doesn't understand this question. How do you discipline yourself to write? She said that to her, discipline is stepping away from her computer so that she can take part in other parts of her life. And that is it. That's the compulsion, the obsession a writer has to tell stories. And a writer who knows that we don't figure it out first. We don't make sense of what we're doing and then write. And we sure as hell don't wait to be inspired. That comes after we sit down, after we put our butt in the chair and we start writing. That allows the inspiration to come. We are in charge of that. We are not at the mercy of an invisible muse. We are not at the mercy of whatever is supposed to gift us with the inspiration to write. So again, we don't make sense of what we want to write. We don't make sense of what's up here and then write it in a nice, coherent, organized fashion. No. We embrace the messy process. We let ourselves write out of order, and we completely banish this idea that we can ever waste time writing. So again, if you're trying to write a novel and you're trying to do it in order, in an order that you perceive in your mind, you are throwing down a massive roadblock for yourself. I want to go back for a minute to this 4 a.m. start time. That's an obscenely early hour by most people's standards. But as I have searched for the writing habits of famous writers, I have found that many have this 4 a.m. start time. Did you know that 4 a.m. is considered the magical hour? Did you know that the reference to 4 a.m. shows up in many songs? And no, I can't name them right now, but it's true. And it might even show up in other art forms, I'm not sure. But 4 a.m. is considered the magical hour because of its association with stillness and solitude. The rest of the world is still asleep, or the rest of our world anyway, our immediate world. is still asleep at 4 a.m. 4 a.m. is also associated with spiritual energy. And in many cultures, 4 a.m. is considered a time of deep introspection, clarity of mind, and a closer connection with the divine. In Hinduism, this is referred to as Brahma Muhurta. It's a time when the world is quiet. When you wake up at 4 a.m., you're sitting in a very special place for personal reflection and creativity. I've never gotten up intentionally at 4 a.m., but you know what? In the past 2 to 3 months, I've been waking up between 3 and 4 a.m. very consistently. But instead of embracing it and getting up and using the time, I've been lying there tossing and turning, waiting for the sun to come up. It's something I need to change because I feel like I'm being presented with this opportunity right now to use this magical time and I'm just squandering it. So, okay, I've said it out loud, so I'm going to start getting up and working. I'm going to start getting up and writing when I wake up spontaneously at 3:30, 4 a.m. Years ago when I was living in Truckee, California, I intentionally started waking up at 5 a.m. At that time, I was teaching remotely, so I could pretty much do that whenever I felt like it. And I was also cleaning vacation homes because Truckee is full of those. Great big mansion-like homes. And I would wake up at 5 a.m. to write. I didn't have to be ready to clean houses until checkout around 11 or 11:30 a.m. So I had at least 5 solid hours before I had to start thinking about making a head shift, getting ready to go to work. I was living in a little sort of rundown cabin on Donner Lake, but I loved it. It was absolutely magical. There is something about getting up before the rest of the world is up and about. I would get up and make some coffee and I would walk right across the street to a pier and I would just sit there. And the morning fog was hovering over the lake and I would kind of do a little meditation and then I would go back inside and write. Okay, so back to Kingsolver. So if you can, if you are able to in your life, see if you can get up at an obscenely early hour, whatever that is to you, and see how it's different. See how the experience in writing during that time is different. And I'm not saying you have to make it a habit, just give it a try, maybe for a week, and see what happens. And then tell me in the comments. Please leave comments. I would love to see more interaction on here, and I will respond to you. If you leave comments, I will respond. Okay, back to Kingsolver. As I started in the opening saying, she says that she writes a lot of material that she knows she's going to throw away. And this reminds me of the other metaphor I use about the garden hose in the spring. You turn it on and you flush all the gunk out so that the good stuff can start to come out. That's what the brain dump in writing is. Do it. Don't sit around and try to figure it out. You're stopping yourself. Kingsolver also talks about the fact that throughout her career as a novelist, she's also been a mother, and how her writing life and her life as a mother have been one and the same, and how she had to learn to do both at the same time. She talks about how her writing hours were constrained by the logistics of having her kids in someone else's care, and how precious her writing time has always been. And I can so relate to this. And she attributes her early morning rising to write to the fact that she is a mother, the sense of having time and space before she was needed by other people. Then she says, as her kids started school, her writing life was shaped around the bus taking off and the bus coming back, and she would write in between those times. And she talked about how normalizing it was to have a family, to give her a reason to stop writing at the end of the day, to make dinner and eat with them, and how healthy that made her life in general, to have the space created in the times that her kids were gone, and then when they came back, requiring her to step away and be present for them. So think about that as you sort out how to manage your writing life and your family life. And understand that not everyone listening has a family and has small kids, but many of you have daytime jobs. Many of you may be caring for an aging parent. Many of you have partners. And so we all have other pieces of our lives that inform and complement our writing lives, but can also be obstacles. I've always said that one of the most disruptive things to a writer's writing practice is other people. Sometimes it's frustrating and sometimes it's a welcome and needed thing. And she makes this lovely statement that I want to read to you. She says, "My children have taught me everything about life and about the kind of person I want to be in the world. They anchor me to the future in a concrete way. Being a mother has made me a better writer. It's also true to say that being a writer has made me a better mother." And I think that's really lovely. And even though I'm not Barbara Kingsolver level accomplished, I completely understand what she means by that. So lovely writer, whether or not you have kids, remember the magic of 4 a.m. And remember that the fabulous Pulitzer Prize winning Barbara Kingsolver writes hundreds of pages to get to page 1. because that's how the creative process works. As always, sending you mad writing mojo. Happy writing.